Hi, here I am, Andy XL, back with another NFXL podcast. Another 2026 NFL draft related pod this. Um, and this is about the O linemen and a December update for them. Now, as I've said in previous cases when I cover O linemen, I simply don't have the technical knowledge to assess these guys' abilities really. So I have plagiarized it from other people to a certain extent in terms of that expertise. I've lent on their expertise. But where my strength comes in is analysing the trends and where they're going to go in the draft, how many go in each round, what the demand might be from the NFL teams. So let's get on with it anyway. O linemen, centres. Now, on average, 2.83 have gone in the first three rounds of recent drafts. At guard, that applies to 5.83. So there's very few centres. It's like one around in the first three rounds. Guards, it's probably about two around, but not in round one necessarily, where it's really low. Offensive tackles, however, over 11 per draft go in the first three rounds. So we've got to bear that in mind when we look at what we're looking, how many are likely to go early here. For some reason, offensive tackles seem far more um, popular than centres and guards, even though if you think about it, we need one centre and two guards, which is three players, and two offensive tackles. Now, sometimes offensive tackles get moved to guard and moved around, so there's a reason for that. Right, enough waffling from me. Let's get into it. The centres. So, this doesn't look like a great class, but it doesn't look like an awful class either. Um, but there's no round one candidate at the moment. The one guy who might get into round one is Connor Lew, a junior out of Auburn, 6'3", 302 pounds. Um, so he took over at centre for Auburn midway through his freshman year, and he had a full season as such as as a sophomore in 2024. In 2025, he's still done pretty well. And he still looks like the leading candidate in centre and could well go in round two, could squeak into round one if somebody's really in need of a centre and doesn't like what's in the free agency market. So Connor Lew's still the class leader, as he was in my last update. Jake Slaughter, he's the second guy that I've got at centre. Now I see him as a round three candidate at the moment. Um, he still looks more like a third rounder than a second rounder, and he's not had a good season as he did in 2024. When I did my previous piece in October, I think it was, I got one or two Gator fans coming on to me and saying, yeah, Slaughter's a good player, but he's not having a great season. And when I went back and looked at it, yeah, he isn't. But he's still probably the second best centre in this class right now. Um, although there are challenges to that, which I'll come to. But not the next guy, who's Parker Brailsford, who stays at three in my list, a junior out of Alabama, 6'2", 290 pounds. Um, he had an indifferent start to the season, but he's done okay since. He probably is now a round three guy who could slip into round four after pretty much an underwhelming season for Bama. For Iapani Lalalu, junior Oregon. So he stays at four. Yeah, he's a candidate to get into round four, as I say, maybe round three, if depending on demand. Like I said earlier, if you go back, we're only looking at maybe two or three to go in the first three rounds. So if Lou, Slaughter, and Brailsford are in possession of those slots, Lalalu's only way in is to get ahead of one of those, showing up well in the pre-draft activities, or there's more demand. So that's his chance of getting into round three. A guy who is on the up is Logan Jones, a senior at Iowa. He wasn't in my original list in October. He possesses rare speed and athleticism as a centre, still raw and probably a development project for a team drawn by his physical abilities. As I say, he's the only addition to my October list of centres, and he is the one who'd be challenging the likes of Lalalu, Brailsford, maybe even Slaughter in terms of getting into day two. Right, let's move on to guards. This doesn't look like a great class, but there has been some movement upwards. It didn't look like a great class in October, I should say, but there have been some guys that have had decent seasons. One of those is Oliver Vega. Sorry, I'll try that again. His Christian name's not an easy one. Oliver Vega Ione, junior at Penn State, 6'4", 330 pounds. So He's continued to thrive in 2025, and he may even have done enough to get into round one now. He's had a really solid season for Penn State, a good season, in fact. So, in what doesn't look like the strongest of classes, and with not a lot of interior eye linemen out there, he only could be the one that moves up draft boards. So, a quick sip of coffee. Round two, I've got one in there as well. If Ione's going in round one, I've got one in round two. Emmanuel Pregnon, a senior at Oregon, he's another one who's on the up. He's excelled in 2025, vaulting into this list at two, and has been a big part of an Oregon O-line that has done so well protecting Dante Moore this season. He could well land in the mid to late round two territory as a result. Right, round three, Chase Bisontis, junior, Texas A&M. Um, I've listed him as a guard, but he can play either guard or tackle, and has a really good season for the Aggies. In a class that looks pretty thin, Bisonte's performances and his versatility get him into this list at number three, which could mean teams would consider him as a third round pick. So he's the round three guy, one per round. And again, if we go back to the beginning, I actually said there's 5.83. So there's a dearth of candidates to go in the first three rounds, one per round. So it's not a great class. And the one guy who currently got in round four who could then take advantage of that and move into three, although he's only a sophomore, is Cade Piper of Iowa. Now he's had a sensational season and he's rising rapidly up the rankings. I've put him in at four. He has huge upside, but lacks the experience of others and may not even enter this draft after just two full seasons at the college level. So they're the four best guards that I can see at the moment. Mid-rounders, these are guys that were in my original list and are now dropping down the list. Jaden Roberts, the senior at Alabama. Ahmad Reed Adams, the senior at Texas A&M. So both of those have got to come out, but they've struggled this year. Charles Jagusa, the junior at Notre Dame. And that's it, basically. So we're struggling for guards in this draft from what I can see. That's not the case at tackle. There are loads of candidates at tackle here, and I'm just going to try and whip through them as fast as I can. Round one, and he's moved up to number one in my tackle rankings, is Francis Mauigoa. He's a right tackle senior at Miami. 6'6", 315 pounds. According to DraftBuzz, he's 77% against the pass, 75% against the run. So solid in both categories. Could even be, he's one of two that could go in very early in the draft, top 10, maybe even top five. Because there are teams out there at the front end of the draft that are going to need offensive linemen. And if there's no centres and guards worthy of that, then they're going to be looking at tackle. So Mauigoa could be one, for instance, like Tennessee need O linemen, Las Vegas Raiders need O linemen. So they've got a chance of going very early. The other guy who's swapped places with Mauigoa and going from one to two is Spencer Fano. He can play either tackle position, which is going to help him. Grades really well against both the pass and the run. Again, according to DraftBuzz, I'm going to shout them out because I'm plagiarising off them because they've got greater expertise in this area than I. So he and Mauigoa are going to be the ones that teams looking for an offensive lineman very early in the draft are going to have to choose between. So he's another top 10, top 5 possible right now. The third guy staying at 3 as he was in October is Caden Proctor, left tackle junior at Alabama. Now, he was vying with Mauigoa and Fanu to be the first one, but he's dropped off a little bit now. He's probably more mid to late round one right now. Caleb Lomu is the fourth. Again, another round one candidate. Left tackle, only a sophomore at Utah. So again, he's going to have the option to stay at school if he wanted to, as a junior would. But particularly with sophomores, you wonder, okay, do I stay in school? But if he comes out in this draft, then he's in contention for a first round pick. Right, now who the guys I've got in round two. One who's moved up from 11 in my October list to number 5 now is Jennings Dunker, or Gennings Dunker, depending which way you want to pronounce it. Right tackle senior at Iowa. These Iowa linemen again. So he's had a really good season, and he's now my OT and pushing for round one recognition even, but he's definitely high in round two right now, as I see it. Dropping one as a result of Dunker going past him is Isaiah World. can play either tackle position, a senior at Oregon. So was borderline one round two in October. He's probably now dropped into round two, but he still looks to be having a decent season. Now, this next guy is one of those who seems to be a bit polarizing in what people think of him. Excuse me. It's Trevor Gooseby. Can play both tackle positions again. Junior at Texas, huge guy, 6'7", 312 pounds. So I've got him in. He's moved up a couple of spots from my ninth offensive tackle to 7, and I've got him in round 2 as it stands. Then we've got Caleb Tiernan, a left tackle or right tackle, play both tackle positions again. Another big guy, 6'7", 329 pounds out of Northwestern, a junior. Late round 2, early round 3 is where he is now. He was my OT7 last time round, so he's actually dropped a position, but he's still well in contention for round 2. Right, the other day 2 guys, and now we're just talking about round 3. Austin Sierraveld, a junior at Iowa State, new into my list as my OT9, and after a strong 2025 campaign, another with versatility on his side. And as we get into the early to mid rounds, teams love to look at to get a versatile O lineman. You know, those guys who can fill in multiple slots, but maybe aren't elite. That might be Sierraveld. Austin Barber is the next guy, left tackle senior at Florida. He was OT6, so he's now dropped as some spots basically and into round 3. But he's had a decent season, but not as good as those that have risen above him. So, like I say, he's down 4 spots on my list. Blake Miller drops 3 spots. He's a senior at Clemson. Played both tackle positions again, which, like I say, is really useful in this time. He suffered as Clemson struggled, but has recovered some of the lost ground recently and may even keep climbing back up boards in the pre-draft activities because he's not, he's just going to shine on his own now in pre-draft activities. He's not going to be seen as one of the struggling Clemson team as this season, as it seems to be perceived. Right, the next guy. Now I had him as guard in my previous list, and I moved him across to O tackle, but he's well down in the list. He's an around 3 prospect. He's Caden Green, the junior at Missouri. So the fact that he can play guard or tackle stands him in really good stead. Again, as I keep saying, these guys that once we get into round 3, round 4, if you've got that versatility, teams are going to love to make use of that. So Caden Green's now in as an offensive tackle. And then I've got a whole list of other names that I'm going to give you that making a move to move up the draft boards as we're getting closer to the draft. But I'm not really going to go down into a breakdown of them at this moment. I'll just give them a name check. Carter Smith, junior at Indiana. Brian Parker, the third, junior at Duke. Max Ianacha, a senior at Arizona State. Monroe Freeling, junior at Georgia. Alex Harkey, the senior at Oregon. J.C. Davis, a senior at Illinois. And the guy who's dropped right down my list, but he's still in there, is Xavier Chaplin, the tackle from left tackle, junior Auburn. A massive guy, him 6'7", 348 pounds, an absolute man mountain. But they're all in there. Drew Shelton is another one, senior at Penn State, who's dropped down my list a bit. Amil Wagner, junior at Notre Dame. Now they're all still in there. They're still all in with a chance of getting into day 2. But maybe some of these have got to slip into day 3 because, like I say, I've got 21 really strong candidates there in what looks like an excellent tackle class. But sorry, I'm scanning back to the top of my piece. We're only looking for 11 on average to go in the first 3 rounds. So there's 10 guys there that are going to potentially slip. But I think we might see more than 11 go in the first 3 rounds because there's that much quality. But there's still going to be some value picks in round 4 by the look of this class. So that's how I see O linemen. Quick update. Like I say, apologies for my lack of technical knowledge. So I'm leaning on my data analysis and statistical trends to guide you on this one. But that's the O lineman. So next up on this piece, I'll switch over to the defensive side and look at the defensive tackles. So that will be coming up probably towards the end of this week. See you soon.